Welcome to this episode of The Wisdom of Paramahansa Yogananda, brought to you by Self-Realization Fellowship, where each week you can receive inspiration and guidance from Paramahansa Yogananda's Kriya Yoga teachings. The subject of this episode is Facing Life with a Spiritual Perspective by Brother Bhumananda.
There was a saint in the 14th century, and she spoke of a vision she had where she saw a tree and it was laden, filled with these beautiful golden fruits. And around the tree was a thick, high hedge with lots of thorns. So it was difficult to get through the hedge to get to the tree. And then a short ways off from the tree was a small hill, and it was covered with corn that was just beginning to ripen. And it looked very nice, but when you touched the corn, it would turn rotten and crumble into dust. And this large group of people came by, and they saw the tree with the beautiful fruits, and they tried to get to it, but when they were pricked by the thorns of the hedge, they got discouraged and they gave up. And then they saw the corn on the hill, and they went and ate the unwholesome corn, and they became sick. Then a second group of people came, smaller group. And they too saw the tree, and they were more determined. And they actually broke through the hedge and got to the tree, but they found that the fruit was high up on the tree, and the tree was hard to climb. And after climbing a couple times, they too became discouraged and they gave up. And they went to the hill with the corn, and they ate the corn, and they were hungrier than ever. And then there was a third group, just a few. And they were really determined. And they broke through the hedge. And even though they kept falling down when they tried to climb the tree, they kept on. And they kept on. Finally, they did it. They climbed the tree, and they received such nourishment from those golden fruits that from that day on, they never needed food again. And of course, it's a spiritual allegory, and the way it's explained, the fruit of the tree, these are the fruits of God realization. And the little hill with the corn, this is the worldly life that promises much but cannot fulfill. Those who give up trying to get to the tree when they feel the thorns of the hedge are those seekers who feel they cannot endure the discipline of the spiritual path, and they give up almost before they try. Then those who get through the hedge, but after climbing the tree once or twice, give up when they realize it's hard. Those are those devotees who begin the path with sincerity, but when they're tested and they realize this is going to be a long-term struggle and this is not easy, they too become discouraged and give up. And the few who reach the fruit of the tree are those who are faithful, who keep on and keep on and keep on seeking God, loving God, till the goal is reached. And this saint said very beautifully, we were not created to eat dust. We were not created to eat dust. So much of the suffering in this world, people do not know the purpose of life. And so they put all their time, all their energy in the outer things. The career, the relationships, making money, having lots of possessions. Now, don't misunderstand. There's nothing wrong with being successful in a material sense. But if in the process you turn from God, you forget God, then there's much suffering, isn't there? Someone put it this way. How many people on their deathbed will wish they had spent more time in the office? And to have the realization that there's more life than just what appears to be on the surface, that's a great blessing. And we understand that. That's why we're here, I think, for most of us. And so we should be grateful that through our spiritual efforts, either in this life or in previous lives, we have that deeper understanding. That of itself is a tremendous blessing. Our Guru Paramahansa Yogananda said, "It is a great delusion to think there is no more to life than appears outwardly. Your real life is with God, and to go back to Him is the reason we are here." And Sri Dayamata, she was the third president of SRF YSS, and a wonderful saintly soul. And once in a note to the monks, she said this: "When we reach the end of this journey of life, Divine Mother will not ask what our position has been, what others have thought of us, what great deeds we have done, or even what mistakes we have made. Her only question will be, have you loved me? And have you given my love to others? To seek anything else is to chase the shadows of dreams." Desire for God, yearning for God, it's like a fire, you see, and you have any fire, the key there, you have to keep replenishing it with fuel. Because if you don't feed the fire, what happens? It diminishes, and eventually it can die out. And so the way we feed this fire of seeking God, yearning for God, is by spiritual actions. There's two great forces in delusion. It's very simple, really. Two great forces. One is the love of God that's pulling us to spirit, and the other is cosmic delusion. In India, we call it Maya. This cosmic delusion that's always trying to cloud our perceptions of truth, always trying to distract us, to make us restless. Gyanamata, who's a great disciple of Yogananda ji, she used to say, "Keep the goal ever shining before you." How do you do that? First, you meditate daily, ideally morning and evening. Even when meditation is hard for you, do know that every time you sincerely try to meditate, you strengthen the link between you and God. You weaken the power of delusion. So meditating faithfully will keep that divine goal shining before us. And when you feel love in meditation, when you feel a little peace in meditation, tranquility, a sense of well-being, joy, don't treat that lightly. That is real. That is very real. At that moment, God is responding to you. Acknowledge it. And also, study of the Guru's writings is very important. There's basically two things that happen when you absorb the teachings of a God-realized master, such as our own Paramahansa Yogananda. First, you're filling your consciousness with his thoughts, and his thoughts tell us our purpose here. So you read, for example, like what I gave earlier, "It is a great delusion to think there is no more to life than what appears outwardly. Your real life is with God, and to go back to Him is the reason we are here." We need these divine reminders from the Guru, because the world's constantly bombarding you with these little limited, delusional, belittling thoughts. The world's constantly telling you, you're just a little man. You're just a little woman. You can get sick. You're limited. You can get hurt. You're unhappy. empty, you're this, you're that. It's constant. But if you deeply absorb spiritual truths from a God-realized guru, such as our own Paramahansaji, even 20 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, just that little time has such spiritual power and presence, it's enough to counter hours and hours of limiting messages from the world. So go to the Guru's books for daily nourishment. Go to the SRFYSS lessons. In these teachings, you could say, are the complete university course on how to successfully seek and find and anchor your life in God. How to gain tremendous spiritual power through that. So we bring the Guru's thoughts into our consciousness by spiritual study, but the other thing, we bring the vibration of the Guru into our consciousness also, and that's no small thing. You see, every single one of his thoughts has a powerful spiritual vibration. And when we think the Guru's thoughts, we're actually absorbing and putting ourselves in the vibration of his consciousness, his presence. And in that vibration of his presence, we are strengthened, protected, guided, uplifted, inspired. And when you have the understanding of the wisdom of the Guru's teachings, and when you have the protection of the Guru's vibration that's inherent in those words of wisdom, then whatever the world throws at you, you can face it with faith fearlessly, with strength, with courage, with determination, and with joy. So the subject today, facing life with a spiritual perspective. If you look at life, it's very troublesome. You think you find happiness, but then it doesn't last. You know, someone thinks they find the perfect partner, and for a while there's that period of, everyone's floating. The two people are floating. They're in love. But then after a while, the bad habits and the flaws you begin to see, and they begin to see it in you. And the two of you realize, okay, to make this work now, we have work to do. Lots of work to do. Or somebody thinks they find the perfect job. And for a while, it's very nice. And then they get a new boss who's terrible. Or the company is acquired by another company who changes the culture, and things are different now. Or suddenly rumors are floating around, there's going to be layoffs and everyone's apprehensive. So there's always something coming up in this world. We always want it to go smoothly, and it never does. But when you realize the purpose is to know God, and that all these troubles are simply stepping stones to prod us to make a greater effort to bring out that indomitable soul within us that is inalterably linked with God, then it's not so bad. When you know there's a higher purpose, then you're better able to respond in an appropriate way when these troubles come up. Because you think about it, when you were going to college, okay? It's not pleasant. The teachers are always giving you lots of work, and all the students are griping about it. Homework and projects, term papers, then there's cramming for finals. Going to college is incredibly stressful. But you don't mind because you realize you have a higher purpose there. I remember when I was at the university as a student, and it was finals week, and I got the flu. So I'm standing in the hallway, waiting for the doors open to take my final test. I have a terrible sore throat, a fever. I'm running a fever. My head feels like it's pounding. I can't even think straight. And I think, what am I doing here? But I was determined because I didn't want to miss that final and have to repeat the whole thing. So I did it because I had a higher purpose in mind. I wanted my degree and I didn't want to delay. So when difficult experiences pound at us in the university of life, we have to realize there's a higher purpose. If we have that understanding, we deal with it much better. Paramahansa Ji said, all you have to do to overcome your trials is to resurrect your consciousness from the environment of spiritual ignorance. Ever affirm, Heavenly Father, I know that thou art coming to my aid, and that I will see thy silver lining haloing the dark clouds. In this tumultuous sea of trial, thou art the pulse star of my shipwrecked thoughts. So that's it. Always, always, always keep God first. As soon as you remember your relationship with God, the power of that delusion, the power of that test is mitigated to some degree. If you're thinking of God, nothing that happens to you can ever hurt you spiritually. It's a cosmic law. So, spiritual perspective, first and foremost, it means keeping your connection with God strong. How do we do that? We meditate, we study the Guru's words, as I've mentioned, and also when you're facing some trouble, share it with God. As his beloved child, tell him you're confused. Tell him you don't know what to do. Tell him you're afraid. But don't stop there. Then ask him to help you. And again, think of it as a school. That's the whole purpose, because a cosmic school where more and more we're learning to manifest the perfect, indomitable soul which we are. It's the whole idea. So something difficult comes along, just think, okay, this is my test, and ask, Lord, what is the spiritually correct way for me to respond here? What would you have me do? What lesson do you want me to learn through this? We all go through rough times. There's no one here in this room that has escaped that, and no one ever will. It's part of being a human being. But if you're constantly trying to feel in your heart, what would you have me do, Lord? What's the higher path I can take that will please you? Then through these troubles, we change. We grow, we spiritually evolve, we become closer to God. And that's the whole point. Well, it seems one area where we can be challenged is in relations with others, relationships. People, they do things that upset us, and then it's so easy to become angry. And the big problem there, of course, when you're angry, where is God? Is it possible can you be God-centered and anger-centered at the same time? Impossible. Cannot do. What the Master stressed is the importance of understanding others, and not only when they're nice to us, but in all circumstances. All circumstances. I've always gotten along pretty good with people, never had any big animosities. And then I entered the ashram, and I better qualify this. When I entered the ashram, I found that there was another devotee who had entered about the same time as me, and he really, really disliked me. And this was hard, because here I was a monk, and I experienced this ill will that I had never, in the ashram of all places, that I had never known in the world. And I tried talking with the fellow, and he wouldn't speak with me. He wouldn't even look at me. And I tried everything I could think of to make it work. Nothing worked. And I remember one weekend my heart was really heavy, this painful burden, because I had come here to give my life to God, and I had to deal now with this thing that I never, in all my imagination, expected I would have to deal with. But I was meditating, and I was praying for him and for me. I was studying the Guru's words. I was asking God and the Guru to help me. And eventually, I understood what was going on. It wasn't that he hated me. That wasn't it at all. He was having a hard time with ashram life. And we had come in about the same time, and we all have our challenges, and I certainly had mine, but I can truthfully say when I entered the ashram, it was kind of like for the first time the fish was dropped into the water. With all the challenges, it fit, and I knew it. Now, if you're struggling, having a real struggle, and you see the person right next to you thriving, human nature, sometimes we lash out, isn't it? That's a very human response. So I understood, but even though he had an issue with me, I can truthfully say I never had an issue with him. I just wanted to make it work. And eventually he did leave the ashram, and for him, I think that was, the best decision. But through it all, I just felt love. I just felt love. Now, going through that, it wasn't easy, and it was never something I would choose. But afterwards, I did realize it helped me. I almost hate to say it, but it did help me to grow in understanding, in the capacity to love when it's not easy to love. It gave me understanding. A wonderful example of one who always understood others, of course, is our Guru, Paramahansa. And Brother Anandamoy, he was one of our early monks. He was with the Master. And he told this beautiful story to me and some others, how Master was once in a car about to leave Mount Washington, and the devotees gathered around him to see him off. That was the tradition. And it was a cold day. And so one of the nuns gave Master some gloves, and she said, "Sir, it's pretty cold. You better put these on." And Brother Anandamoy could see Master was sitting in the car, and he was really absorbed within. He just wasn't aware of things. His mind was deep on God. And so he was trying to put the gloves on, but kind of having a hard time with it. And finally, Master looked down, and he said, "Oh, I have the glove on the wrong hand." And at that point, it was so amusing, Brother Anandamoy burst out laughing. And when he did that, one of the nuns turned and glared at him as if, how dare you laugh at the Guru? And Brother Anandamoy had this sinking thought, oh my goodness, she thinks I'm laughing at him, but that's not it. And then he had the thought, oh, I hope Master understands me. And as soon as he thought that, Master turned and gave him the sweetest look. And he said to him, when I was a boy visiting the saints, I used to laugh just like that. And they never minded. And so Anandamoy thought, oh, he understands. That's that type of divine understanding that we all want and will develop. And it comes by meditation, by working on the personal relationship with God. through meditation, as we become more heart-centered, that intuition faculty of the soul becomes more active, stronger, more developed. That gives us that divine understanding. Guruji said, understanding is your inner vision, the intuitive faculty by which you can clearly perceive the truth about yourself and others and all situations that arise in your path, and correctly adjust your attitudes and actions accordingly. So we all have this soul faculty of intuitive understanding, and it's developed as we exercise it, as we meditate. Now, having said that, sometimes there may be something that happened to us. Perhaps we're devastated by some experience, and we don't understand. It just doesn't make sense to us. But if you meditate and if you have that personal relationship with God, you come to the point where you can sincerely say with all your heart, Lord, I don't understand why this has happened, but you do. And that's enough for me. And when you can just completely put your trust in God in that way, that's when the healing takes place. But you know, if there's times when we cannot understand some experience, some situation, we should always try to understand what our response to that situation should be. And that's what we mean by spiritual perspective. We meditate. We ask God, Lord, what is the lesson here? What's the higher path I should take that will be pleasing to you? And then we go forward. And then we go forward. And never let yourself get discouraged when the going gets rough. There's times for every one of us, but remember, we're in school, and in school, there's tests. It's inevitable. That's what it's supposed to be. So don't be afraid of them, but do your best to pass them. Ask God to help you pass them. Ask the Guru to help you pass them. That's the key. There's a wonderful affirmation our Guru gives. Dear Father, whatever conditions confront me, I know that they represent the next step in my unfoldment. I will welcome all tests because I know that within me is the intelligence to understand and the power to overcome. So let's close our eyes, put our attention, the point between the eyebrows, and let us affirm together, Dear Father, whatever conditions confront me, I know that they represent the next step in my unfoldment. I will welcome all tests because I know that within me is the intelligence to understand and the power to overcome. Om. Amen.
This has been a production of Self-Realization Fellowship, a non-profit organization founded by Paramahansa Yogananda in 1920. For more information about Self-Realization Fellowship and Paramahansa Yogananda, please visit yogananda.org.